This is the first time Philly.net has gone virtual from outside of the Microsoft MTC. We've never done this before, and here we are. I'm on a wonderful sunny beach, and Rich is at home. We're all staying safe, making sure that we can bring this to you. Okay, so hey, GitHub Actions, right? Again, concentrating on continuous integration and continuous deployment. So let's say I've got a project here, and tonight this is the project. I'm using Visual Studio Code, but it doesn't matter at all. Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio for Mac, Visual Studio IDE, Writer, that's not the point. You're going to see that this website isn't really the point of our talk tonight. So, but I am going to, just to level set things here, I am going to run this. This is a website that I brought over from the Dev Talk Show, which is a weekly stream on Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern. Oh, and tonight is a Wednesday night as well, that Rich Ross and Andy Schwam are a part of. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now, the point of this is that this is a website. We just needed a website that we can take up to GitHub, and we can build and deploy there. So we've got it. We've got ourselves a simple ASP.NET Core Razor Pages app, and it happens to be 3.1, but you're going to see that most of those settings are configurable up on GitHub. And so, hey, everybody who's here tonight, thank you again for joining. We have delayed a couple minutes. I haven't really gotten into the meat of this yet because we want to make sure that everybody gets here to see it. If you do miss anything tonight, don't forget our YouTube channel at youtube.com/PhillyDotNet, Philly.net, is where every stream is recorded live, and you could go over what we did tonight. So don't worry about taking notes. Don't worry about trying to keep up with everything. You can come watch it again and follow along. So we just have a simple website that works. That's the most important thing. Secondly, we have that up in GitHub. So what I need to do is get GitHub over here. Here we go. Here's a GitHub repository. Okay, this happens to be in my account, and I called it PDN GitHub Actions. But the important thing is that we have some code to build. That's the most important thing to get started with this. You will see that I've used Azure Pipelines on this before. We're not doing Azure Pipelines tonight. So you may have noticed recently, I spend a lot of time on GitHub. A lot of you may know that I like to talk about Git, and I like to help developers understand Git. So understandably, I spend a lot of time on Git websites, whether it's GitHub or Bitbucket or Azure repos, in order to understand what's going on. And I came across this button recently. If you can see, one thing I do need to do is make this a little bit bigger for everybody. I came across the Actions button that's sitting on this tab here alongside Code, Issues, Pull Requests. I've been seeing these for a long, long time, and here's Actions. And I said, boy, what do we do with this? So when you click on Actions, if you've never built a workflow with the GitHub Actions in your repository, you get this kind of nice welcome screen that says to you, hey, why don't you get started with GitHub Actions? Do you want to build a static website using Jekyll? We'll help you out with that. Do you want to deploy to Azure Web Apps? Do you want to deploy to other clouds? Do you want to deploy Python, Rust? It's for all kinds of different projects. Tonight, we're going to focus on .NET Core. So the way that you get started is one way to get started. This is not the only way to get started, and I think you're going to see that while there are workflows to get me going here within the GitHub website, it should become pretty clear to all of us that this is everything you would expect with GitHub. This is a workflow that's based in files and commits. So if I skip this opening page and I say, set up a workflow yourself, what GitHub does is it creates in my repository a new folder called .github, a workflows folder under that, and then a main.yaml file. Now, you can have multiple YAML files that solve different problems. You just put them in the workflows folder. And then once they're in the workflows folder and they're committed to your repository, you can bring them down to your machine with the next time you clone or pull and work on them there, and then send them back up to GitHub and see what happens. So let's take a quick look at what this initial GitHub Actions file looks like. Hopefully this font is big enough to take a look at here. And if not, we'll move that stuff on the right out of the way for now. You name your workflow. You can name this anything you want. They've already thrown CI in for me. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say CI for .NET Core, just because I want to change the name. I want you to see that I changed the name. This particular action will run on any push to the master branch or any pull request that is destined for the master branch. So now this might start, if you're a heavy GitHub user, you might start to get some ideas about, hey, I could have a workflow to so that when people pull requests, that maybe I run their code, I build their code, maybe I run the tests, but I don't want to deploy it. But if I push to a specific branch, one that's meant for production, well, then maybe I'll have a workflow for that. We're not going to worry too much about that tonight. I just want you to see that that's what the on section is for. Now, a workflow is made up of jobs. The jobs can be everything from checking out your code to building your code, running tests, and deploying to a server. And so we're going to see some of that now. The first thing they want to know is what type of machine are you running on? And we're going to go ahead and run on Ubuntu Linux tonight. We're going to deploy to Ubuntu Linux on Azure Web Apps, and we're going to build. .NET Core is cross-platform, so no problem there. The first action is one that they call checkout, and we'll see a little bit later how you look up actions and how you get some documentation on them. And they're just saying, we're going to check out your repository. Then the next thing they do is from the Ubuntu machine that is going to be set up for you, they just run a command. They're just echoing out hello world. And then, sometimes you might want to run a multi-line script. So they show you how to do that. You use the pipe and you put your multi-lines on multiple lines. So this isn't the most exciting workflow, but I do want to show you how it looks if we do nothing more than just commit this main.yaml. And when we commit main.yaml, we're going to set GitHub Actions into motion, because the action itself says that we're going to run this when we push to master. So, GitHub's helping me out here by putting a start commit button, and it's going to let me commit right from GitHub, right? And if if you know me, you probably think I might cringe a little bit, but let's go ahead and just say create main.yaml. And I don't even need a description. It's fine. We're going to commit directly to the master branch, and I've committed that file. So that file's committed. So I'm going to race over to the Actions tab, because if I race over, there we go. I can see CI for .NET Core and create main YAML is running right now. So let me rush in there and rush to the build, and here it is. If I rush over here, I can see that it set up the job, it checked out the code, and then it ran those two scripts. And there wasn't much to running those scripts. It echoed out hello world, it echoed out the two-line action, and then it did some cleanup, and it was done. That was it. Pretty simple, pretty easy to get started. This may remind you of Azure pipelines. It could remind you of that. It kind of reminded me of that. And so, but it's not too exciting. So far, all we've done is check out our code, and then we ran a couple scripts that had nothing to do with our code. So not the most exciting thing that anyone's ever seen. So let's get back to work. So then the next question I asked myself was, well, how do I get back to work? Yeah.
So this might be
Rich.
a good time just to mention that, hey, if you have questions, put them in the chat, and we'll be able to pass them on to Chris and be able to get your questions answered, just like we were all sitting in the room together.
Yeah, definitely. We're watching the chat on whatever platform you're watching us on tonight. So please definitely ask questions. Let us know what you think. So how do you edit the workflow after you've already committed it once? The Actions tab is no longer going to take me directly to to that nice page that says start a new workflow. I want to make it clear that there might be multiple ways to get back into the workflow, but the way that I found was if I go to the actual file itself, main.yaml, and I click this edit button right here inside GitHub, then I get this screen again that shows me the workflow on the left and the featured actions on the right. So featured actions, that's an interesting place to start. If I'm going to build .NET Core code, one of the things that I'm going to need on the device that I work with is I'm going to need the .NET SDK. So I started looking around for how do I find the .NET SDK, and when I search for .NET Core here in the marketplace, down here I see setup .NET Core SDK. And it says we'll set up a specific version of the .NET Core CLI, we'll put it in the path, and set up the authentication so that it can if you need to, if it's required, authentication for a private NuGet repository. So I thought, oh, pretty cool. If I click on this, does it add it to my project? Well, no. When you click on it, what you get is a little bit more of a sidebar where I could go out to the GitHub Actions marketplace and read more about this, or I could read what in some respects is kind of the documentation for this action. And if I click copy here, okay, now I've copied it to my clipboard, and I'm just going to do something simple and bring up Notepad. Now I can kind of examine what it's saying to do, and it's saying that there's an action called setup-.net. It's currently on version 1.4.0, and so these actions do version as time goes by, and you may want to stick with the version you're on. You may want to say, hey, we don't want to take this action if it's version 2. We'll take a 1.4.1 or 1.4.2. So you can put wildcards and you can use asterisks to say that I'm going to take 1.4 dot. I'll take any one version, the latest one, but don't push me up to 2, or you could just put latest in there and you'll always have the latest. It turns out that this isn't too difficult to use. And just as our friend Park Place said in the chat there, it reminds me a little bit of the Azure DevOps workflow, especially the new multi-stage pipelines that are 100% YAML based, right? Or if you put a YAML file in your project, the Azure pipelines YAML. So I don't need these script commands anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a second step, just like it says right there. It says, in fact, let's copy this in from name, set up the .NET Core SDK, and I'm going to paste this over here. Now it is YAML, so I've got to get this indentation right. Okay. There we go. So now that I've said that I want to set up, hold on, I want that IntelliSense to come in a second. It's like IntelliSense anyway. I'm going to want the .NET Core SDK, and I want you to use this GitHub action. When I push enter here, it starts bringing up choices for different properties of this action. And I know that I want the width parameter, which, then I could go look. When I looked in that documentation, it even says it right here. You say width .NET version, and this is optional. It'll go grab, it'll grab the latest, but maybe you need to lock to a specific version. So I'm going to set this to 3.1.200. The only reason I'm setting it to that is I'm pretty sure the project works with 3.1.200. If not, we might have to work with that. Okay. Now, after you get the SDK, the next thing you might want to do is if you're working inside your own, if you pull down a .NET Core project from GitHub or maybe Azure repos or any other repository, the first thing you have to do is restore NuGet packages, right? So let's go ahead and say restore NuGet, and this isn't going to use an action. We're going to run, just like it says there, run. We're going to run this command line right within the shell. So if we were using, I think I have this right. If we were using a shell, we were just on our command line and we needed to restore packages, we do .NET restore. Okay. Let's go ahead and build. So I'm going to go ahead and put one more step in here, and we're going to call this build app. We'll just call it build app, and I'll use run again. I don't have to use this IntelliSense, right? Oh, you're right about .NET version. Richie Madden informs he's right about this. So I messed up here. It should be .NET version, just like it says over here. Thank you for looking at this documentation on the right. I'm glad that I have everybody here in the user group to help me out here. That we didn't even run into a problem there. So to build the app, let's say .NET build, and let's go ahead and set the configuration to release, and we'll leave it at that. Well, we already restored, so let's just tell it don't bother restoring. Okay. And this is good for now. This is good for now. Let's watch this. Oh, okay. .NET version is right. 3.1.200. Okay, good. I think we're good. Let's go ahead and commit this. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this right within GitHub. I'm going to say that we retrieve SDK and build. And let's just commit that. And that'll give us a chance to rush over to the Actions tab. And we'll see that it's working on my latest commit, retrieve SDK and build. And this is pretty exciting. I click on this build, and it's checking out the code. It's installing the .NET Core SDK right now, which is pretty cool. And then it is, oh, restoring NuGet didn't work. Interesting. So it restore NuGet failed, and it didn't build the app. All right, let's go figure out what happened there. What did we do wrong in the workflow? Okay, we said restore NuGet, and we said to run .NET Restore, which you'd think would be fine, but it blew up. So we said with .NET version, because we do, I don't know that we necessarily need that. What I was going to do next, do I have all of this spacing correct? I think I do. And .NET Restore didn't work. How's that one for you, Rich, huh? Let's
unexpected.
Yeah, that was unexpected for sure. Let's edit this again. Come back in here. Let's bring in where I was going to go with this, which is to change the build and publish to a multi-line, okay? And in the multi-line, we were going to go ahead and publish it out to a location. Basically, this is going to publish to the publish folder right there on the build server. Let's say we're adding build and publish. So, oh, did I leave the Ubuntu stuff out? It is Ubuntu latest. So we are running this on Ubuntu.
Right.
And that's just because this GitHub action, it came with Ubuntu, and there was no reason not to use it. So let's rush back out to the action and see if we get a little further this time. Oh, look at that. It failed again. And it failed on install dependencies. And it says, oh, hold on a second. I have a global JSON sitting in there, don't I? Well, look at that mess. So that's why it's complaining that I don't have the correct SDK. So what I should have really done is I should have looked at the logs, right? The log was trying to tell me that I left a global JSON sitting in this project. And so, of course, .NET Restore is saying, hold on, your global JSON says to use 3.1.101, but yet the only one that you've got installed is 3.1.200. So there we go. A perfectly reasonable mistake. I did not do that on purpose, if anybody's wondering. Believe me, Rich probably knows the look on my face was of sheer terror.
Yep.
and that was not. So let's fix it. Yep. Let's fix it. Let's go back. And here it is.
Global JSON.
Yeah, we could fix it. We could delete it. Let's just let it go. We don't need the global JSON because there's nothing wrong with you doing using a global JSON. What I didn't investigate, because there's something I'd like to look into, is if I use the global JSON, how would I have GitHub Actions pull that SDK? I think it can be done. I'm positive it can be. I just figured, hey, I don't have it tonight, so let's keep it nice and simple. Here we go. .NET Restore worked. It pulled the SDK version correctly because we're not using a global JSON in order to do anything anymore. the build and publish, the build succeeded. So we did kind of skip past that, which is fine. And it actually built and published the app out to a folder, a .publish folder.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's great. That's awesome that we got a machine. We got a machine provisioned to us from GitHub, and it built the project and it published it. I guess we're done. We could go home, except for the fact that now the job's over and the machine's basically gone away, and we didn't do anything really all that fun or useful, right? So, we need to let's do something a little bit more exciting. I do want to stress though that this might be a good workflow to get started with for a pull request, right? And it's also so that if somebody were to have maybe committed a global JSON file, then in the pull request, this would have failed. Mm-hmm. And you would have said, hey, sorry, I can't take your pull request because our CI couldn't build the project. So just like I'm seeing in the chat there, it's a great example of an error that happens when you try to build an old .NET Core app with a global JSON file. Absolutely. Yeah. So because that's not the most exciting thing, and I'm not taking a bunch of pull requests so that I can show you whether or not pull requests work or don't work, and we need to do something a little more exciting that we can feel confident, like, hey, we've GitHub, the GitHub workflow has done something cool for us, and that's going to be deploying to an Azure Web App. Okay, so I just want to show you, and just if you're wondering, I am using a plugin called previously was called Azure Mask. I don't know if that name is changing, but the point is it's a plugin that someone in the community built so that when you are in the Azure portal, it blurs out key values that maybe we don't want to be recorded and shown in the future. So I already have built a web app. I've already put it in a resource group. It's on an app service plan. We don't have if we have time later, if we get to the end and we got some extra time, I can show you the settings, but this is already ready to go. It's a Linux app service plan web app in Azure Web Apps. If I go to the Azure Web App, in every Azure Web App, there is something called a publish profile. And I've already downloaded this publish profile. It's an XML file. And I'm not too afraid to show you this view of the XML file because you're not going to see much of anything in it other than that it is XML. So there's XML there and it goes on for a while. The reason why I'm keeping this secret and off screen is I want you to understand that the publish profile is one of the keys to the kingdom for anybody to publish to your web app. So we're going to need GitHub Actions to know about this, but we certainly don't want anyone else to. So it's got to remain a secret, right? So just know that this web app is ready and waiting for us to publish to it. So we're going to need another step to do that. Which means I need to go edit. Let's edit and get back into the GitHub Actions editor. Remember, I could bring this down to my local editor and I could edit it there and I could push up a commit and it would be the exact same workflow. When you're learning this though, I found that I spent a lot of time in here because I was looking through these featured actions on the right. So let's see. Let me get my notes back up here so we can do this last thing. Okay. The last thing we're going to do, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to search in the marketplace so we can see this. If I say deploy Azure Web App, here we go. Here's the one I'm looking for. There's an Azure Web App that's in the Azure repository. And we can see that if I go ahead and copy this, we can kind of look at this documentation a little bit more closely. So the Azure Web Apps deploy action allows us, if it knows the name of the web app, and if we use a publish settings profile, this is one of the ways that we can publish out from GitHub Actions. There's some other options here that would be useful for say the web app containers or other types of things, but we're not going to worry about any of those tonight. we are just going to concentrate on those two. We're just going to concentrate on those two pieces. So I need another action. And we'll call this one deploy to web apps. And we'll say that this uses, what was the name of that again? It's Azure Web Apps Deploy v2. So let's copy this in. Okay. And then I need to give it a few important things. I need to give it the app name. And the app name, which we just saw the app name, it's PDN Web App. Can you believe that was available? PDN Web App. Of course, I say that too loud and it won't be after tonight, right? So what else do we need? I need the publish profile. We'll come back to how we're going to give it the publish profile in just a second. Publish, but we need it. And what it's actually looking for here is it's looking for the XML, which might make you wonder, well, how are we going to do that? This file is going to be checked in. We don't, it's going to be in a commit. Anybody in an open source project would be able to see it. The last thing that it needs to know is where is the package, and that's why earlier we did .NET publish out to the publish folder, so that way we would have a location that web apps can pick it up from right here on this machine. So we got a question that asked, like, how is branch protection handled? So I believe what you'd want to do is you would want if you set up your repository so that only your core contributors can actually push to master, you can take pull requests. You can set up workflows so that the pull requests that are requesting to push into master would trigger a workflow. Maybe it would trigger a build and test workflow and not actually a deploy workflow or anything like that. And then that should give you the opportunity that when the build fails, then you say, oh, well, we're not gonna merge that, right? From what I've seen, when pull request testing fails, you get a big red stop sign. And generally speaking, I think the core committers are not going to go ahead and accept that pull request. I'm not trying to make it sound like it's loosey-goosey, because it's not really. There's a good stop sign that comes up in that case. I don't know if you have any comment, Rich, or if anybody in the chat does. Please let us know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head. That having a policy in there that does does a little bit of building with what gets checked in before it goes back to master as part of the pull request. And there are other kinds of policies you can include there as well, right? So making sure it's got some kind of an issue associated with it, or making sure that all the tests run successfully. Those are things that you could build into from a policy perspective to protect the master branch.
Right. So the one thing I left out here is that XML that I'm not supposed to share with anybody. I can't just paste that here. So what am I going to do? Well, it turns out, let me go ahead. I'm not going to leave this workflow. I'm going to open in a new tab so I can get back to the repository. I hadn't noticed that a new tab was added to the settings section. I don't know how long ago this was added, but there is a secrets tab now. And the secrets tab is environment variables that are encrypted and they're only exposed to selected actions. It says that as long as you have collaborator access, that you can use these secrets in a workflow, but you have to have collaborator access. So the idea is this is to prevent somebody who maybe doesn't have collaborator access from finding some way to echo out, a secret in the workflow, because you should have to have this access in order to use this secret, in order to even even in order to use the section. So what I'm going to do is, let me show you what this is going to look like. I'm going to say add a new secret. Now, let me show you the name of the secret. That's fine. And I'm just going to make absolutely sure I've got this right here. Okay. So we're going to put in a secret name, and then I'm going to zoom over off screen for just a second to put in the secret. And
This is where we play a
Just
little bit of that
just making sure it's
secret.
all
Yeah.
doing what I think is doing. Watching the stream that I didn't mess that up. Okay.
There you go.
So when we come back, we have an Azure secret with a cool green lock that says, I know your published profile, and this is the name that you've given it. All right. So I left this workflow open so that we could finish the job here. And so the question becomes, well, then how do I use it? And there is a little bit of a nomenclature here. You might find it's gonna look like a cross between an interpolated string and handlebars, and maybe that's so that everybody's happy. I don't know. I'm totally making that up for a laugh. I really have no idea. But if you put into this $, curly brace, secrets dot, and the name of the secret, now GitHub Actions can go retrieve that when the time comes to run this workflow. So I do know of one thing that's gonna fail, right? Is that I'm gonna go ahead and start this commit, and I'm gonna say let's build and try to deploy. I don't expect the website to work. We'll go over that in a second, but let's see if we've got this action right. Did I commit that?
I thought you filled out that box.
Boy, that would stink if I didn't, huh? I might not have. Did I? Maybe it's possible that I did not do that.
Yeah, it says 12 minutes ago, but no.
That's funny. I said start commit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back. Maybe I rushed back to actions too soon. That's really strange.
Yeah.
Surprised it didn't build there. All right.
Try again.
Yeah, that's weird. So one thing that I haven't found, Rich, I don't know if you know the answer, is there a way to run the workflow without committing? And that there might be, but I'm just
that's a
looking
good question. I can look that up, but every time I've run in and done it, I've always kicked it off with a commit.
Let's run back to actions here. Well, it's running now. That's the first time that's happened to me. So it's running. It's going to set up the job, run the build. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, and while this is building, is I'm going to run back to the Azure Web App, because if you're unfamiliar with Azure Web Apps for Linux, here's something great to learn. If you've used Azure Web Apps for Windows, under the covers, Azure Web Apps on Windows is using IIS. And so if you're familiar with ASP.NET Core, you know that ASP.NET Core has a runtime host that is needed to be installed onto IIS. And then what happens is, because IIS is very extensible, the pipeline's extensible, is there's a little handler that comes in there and runs the .NET command for you. Not so on Linux. And so in Linux, you need to go to your web app, and you can do all of this through your ARM template or through other types of automation, the Azure CLI. We experimented with some of that stuff on the Dev Talk Show, right? Is you need to provide this startup command. And our app is, of course, I'm going to blank on what our app's,
The
DLL name. I'm getting it right now. When you get up in front of everybody, you can't even remember your own name sometimes. So the DLL is the Dev Talk Show. I have to get all the capitalization right because this is Linux.dll. Yep. So what I'm saying here is that to deploy this web app and to run it in Azure Web Apps for Linux, I need to make sure that you run this command. So let's save that. That's gonna take a second there. Go ahead and restart that. In the meantime, we saw that our build completed and the deploy to web apps action finished, saying, hey, I deployed out using the zip deploy method, and the deploy logs are ready, and I've successfully deployed to Azure App Service. Now, I just restarted that app service just a second ago, and this is the drum roll part, right? This is where we find out pdn web app.azure websites.net. And let's see. I don't know, 50-50, 60-40, 70-30.
We've
What do
done
you
this a
folks
few
think?
times. I'm going
Hey,
60,
look at
40.
that. Look at that,
Nice.
100%.
You know,
So that's
sometimes
true.
I amaze even myself.
We have done this a couple times. So we built and deployed this application out to Azure Web Apps from GitHub Actions, and it's live on an Azure website. I think we have to do the best part though, which is prove that it works.
Right. Do a change and push.
Right. We're gonna make a change and push. So let's go back to the code, and this is going to give us a chance to talk through something else as well. I'm going to go ahead and edit this. I think this is a good opportunity to bring up another type of variable that you can use in your actions, okay? So we talked about secrets, and secrets are important, but not everything that might be considered a variable for your app is necessarily a secret. So I want to give you an example of another place that you can, another way that you can define variables for your application. And you can define environment variables. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use PDN Web App anymore. I think this is the simplest place to do this, is I'm going to say Azure Web App name. I made that up. That's a variable that I'm going to go define now. So if I come up to the top and I need to be above jobs, so let me come above jobs and say I'm declaring my environment, and the key is Azure Web App name. That's the key I just made up, and it is PDN Web App, right? So what I've done is I've now said, okay, for this script down here that's kind of standard, here's some environment that I might pull up. Now, what I think would be interesting is to start working on pulling environment from other locations, Rich. Like, for example, what if we pulled it from a global JSON to say, hey, here's the SDK that we're on. And so developers don't have two places to, if you're a development team that uses global JSON, you don't have to update in two places.
Right.
You update there, the workflow picks it up. So not something that we're doing tonight, especially as, you know, we're getting down near the end of the GitHub Actions part, but I think it's something that you should try at home. If you're watching on Mixer, Twitch, YouTube, you know, you're following the channel. If you're watching us in the future on YouTube, then definitely get down in the comments and let us know if you've done this, and let us know what you think of all this. Tell us if you're going to try it. So now that I've made that small, simple change, I'm not going to commit yet, because I want to also go out and make, I need to save this. You know what? I am going to go ahead and let's just commit this so that we don't slow anything down. This is the final workflow for the night. And that's going to go ahead and build and deploy while we're working. And I'm fine with that. That's okay. So I'm going to go back to the code. And since we've spent the whole night here in GitHub already. So let's go ahead and open up our simple application, and I'm going to go to our views. This is an ASP.NET Razor Pages application, ASP.NET Core Razor Pages. And I want to make it clear that we didn't care too much tonight about the code. That wasn't the important thing. We needed something that could build and that we could deploy out to web apps so that you could see all this work. So this H1 was at the top of the page. Let's change it right now. That says, first I have to edit it. First, let's not jump the gun. Let's edit and go to our H1. And thank you everybody who's joined us tonight. Tonight's a really special night. We are back. Welcome back, Philly.net. I'm really proud that we were able to bring this back to you tonight, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. So let's go ahead and save this. We're just update index CHTML. That's a great commit. I love that. So let's commit that. Let's rush over to actions. And the final workflow for tonight failed. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So why did you fail? Deployment failed. Publish profile is invalid. Oh, that's very interesting, because we have not done it in this order before, where we changed the web app after getting the publish profile. At least I don't think we have. So
No. Why would that make a?
of course, you're right. I'm not sure why that would matter. Let's see if this other action failed. Uh, did it not? Is that the second time that it's going to do that to me? That's really strange. Let's get rid of this comment. Trust me, it's not the comment. I just want to see actions run and send that out there. Am I like committing it too quickly or something?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's no.
Yeah, the second to last workflow tonight. The
Soon to be the
last
third.
workflow to tonight 2. Boy.
I mean,
So
it's got
we
the right
did a lot.
timestamp. It's like 25 seconds ago.
We did a lot of testing with this, and we never did see GitHub Actions like choke on a commit. So that's and like not do the work. So that's very strange. Let's see. And don't we all have commits like that? Even though if you come to my Git talk, you'll see me talking about rebasing that out of there. But let's see. I really wanted to see that
That looks
update.
promising.
Yeah, I wanted to see. Of course, the last one went red on the publish there. On the deployment, because boy, I would like to see this all work. And say, look at that publish profile. It's complaining about the publish profile. Did I mess up on the app name? Because you know how it says it's invalid for the app name? Did I mess that up?
I don't recall.
Azure Web App name, PDN Web App.
Yeah. I mean, you can check in Azure, right? It should already be.
Yeah, I'm heading over there. Here we go. It is called PDN Web App. Okay. Well, here's what we're going to do. Just in case, we're going to get a publish profile, which is going to get saved down to my machine right now. And then we'll go update that secret. We'll remove this, and we'll add the secret again.
Take that off screen.
Yeah, which I think I did correctly.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. I find that all very odd. Let's go back to the workflow. Let's go back to actions and see. Okay. I was hoping to find a quick, run this thing, but that's okay. There's not if you right click on it, because I find it hard to believe that you'd have to always.
Anything in the ellipse?
Yeah, I thought the same thing, huh?
No.
Oh, look, view workflow file. Did you see that one?
No.
You can get back there quickly. That was pretty cool. All right. This run doesn't say a way to run it again. Okay. Well, let's try this one more time. Because I just want to see. Oh, I didn't click commit changes there. Oh, it doesn't like that? Oh, because I didn't actually change anything. Yeah, I would like to see the web app update, and then we can say, hey, we did it.
Yeah,
we went from beginning to end. So yeah, like some folks mentioned earlier, this is similar to the Azure Pipelines YAML. workflows. I don't I don't believe that the app name needs to be in quotes like it were a string. I don't think that's the case.
It failed.
It did fail again. Okay. Well, why don't we do this?
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? I don't think that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong though. But I see. The thing is I have our work from last time, and we did not do that. Oh, I know what the problem is.
What's that?
The problem is I didn't follow this exact nomenclature that I showed everybody was so important. So I did make a mistake, and thank you. I'm glad that the commenter in the chat got me thinking about it one more time. So in order to correctly refer to an environment variable, I didn't correctly refer to it. I did not do that correctly at all. I don't even know why this completely slipped my mind. We need to use this dollar sort of handlebarsy thing.
Oh, because it's a variable
And
too.
yeah, and we need to say environment. And I completely
Nice.
blanked on that. So PDN Web App up here. This is the one. This is it. Fixed environment. This is the one that's going to work. So no, thank you for that one, because what I was actually saying is I was saying that the app name was Azure_Web_App_name. That's what I was telling GitHub Actions, and it was like, I don't know. I keep asking Azure about this, and it doesn't know what you're talking about. Oh boy, I really wish that this would run. I wonder why we're having trouble with that. We did a lot of workflows when we did this on the Dev Talk Show, right?
Yeah,
And
pretty much in the same
every
kind of
time
pace.
it just fired up, right? And I just want to see the action go. Here we go. This is it. This is the one. All right, I like the positive vibe in the chat. Wolfman says put a $sign in front of it, which I don't know. That might be true. I do know that the nomenclature I showed. Oh, I'm not actually showing us the build. So the thing that I will say, oh, and read the docs. Okay, so maybe you don't have to use the whole nomenclature that I used, but I've used that $sign handlebarsy thingy. And so it says here the job's complete. Let's head out to PDN websites, PDN Web App, .Azure websites. And everybody here, you could probably see for yourself that we have made a change. Welcome back, Philly.net. So
nice.
So that's it. That's a quick run through of Azure Web Apps, and a quick run through, a quick welcome back to Philly.net. Here we are in our remote locations, and I'm glad that everybody could join us. We do have some announcements for the group, right? We are working, thanks to Bill Wolf and Tim Farrow. Let's see, Rob. There's a lot of folks who run the other groups, and I'm going to forget people. Rob Kaiser. Everybody's working hard on setting up the next set of events, right?
Yeah.
And so if you go to the meetup for Philly.net and you go to the meetup for Philly Azure, check out our upcoming events. Tonight we did GitHub Actions. The month of May, Philly.net is going to be working on Visual Studio Online and Jupyter Notebooks. And Bill, I believe the Visual Studio Online is about the remote development container type stuff, which I will tell you, it's awesome stuff. That's really, really cool stuff. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Let us know what you think about the times for this. We think that 7 o'clock is a pretty good time to get this stuff started, because unlike everybody rushing home straight from work, I think that this gives us a good chance to maybe have dinner and get settled in, and then come in and have some fun with code and so on.
Yeah.
We're experimenting with a shorter time frame tonight. Maybe we'll go a little bit longer for everyone, but just let us know. Be sure to follow Philly.net on Twitter, and where we're going to put out some more announcements, and we're definitely looking for more speakers, more presenters. The workflow for this is if you can call us on Skype, we can share your screen, we can put your picture up there, and it is because Skype has some extra special features for video sharing that Rich is able to use. Did a great job doing the production just from his place. It's just as awesome as the MTC studio, and but I know we all miss you, and we all miss having dinner together tonight.
Definitely.
If you've got some extra time tonight at 8:30 p.m., the Dev Talk Show is going to be on tonight. You can learn more at thedevtalkshow.com. You can also watch us on Mixer, Twitch, or YouTube, just like this, except that it's the Dev Talk Show at the end on Mixer, Twitch. On YouTube, we haven't quite gotten enough subscribers for that URL on the Dev Talk Show.
Getting close.
But if you go to video.thedevtalkshow.com, that takes you right to the YouTube channel, and just a few more subscribers, and that channel will have a nice vanity URL as well. And we're going to have a friend of Philly.net tonight. Stashu Korik is going to be on to talk to us about F# and functional programming. He's been to the group before, talked about using F# for everything from front-end programming to server programming on the web. There's a complete stack called the Safe Stack. And hey, you should take a look. So definitely tonight, a half an hour from now on the Dev Talk Show. And if you just stay right here on this channel, it is going to be hosted. But if you want to come over to the Dev Talk Show channel, we're going to listen to your chat. We'll talk to Stashu, and we'll learn a lot about F# together. That's with Rich Ross, Andy Schwam, and myself. And we do that every Wednesday night at 8:30. So, that was fun. Yeah. And thank you out there for sticking with some of the technical difficulties and getting through there. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank everybody who joined us in the chat. Seeing you chat with us, seeing the emotes, seeing those thumbs up, trust me, it keeps me going. And I think it helps us feel like, all right, we're helping people. We're not just talking to a screen. So very humbled.
Feels a little more back to normal doing this, right?
It does. It felt a little back to normal tonight, and I hope it brought some normalcy back to you too, right?
Definitely.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you again